My name is Felicia Bonita, and I'm 28 years old now. But this whole mess started when I was just a kid. Back then, everything seemed perfect. We lived in a quiet neighborhood in the suburbs of Seattle. Not extravagant by any means, but it was home. My dad, Thomas, ran a logistics company. It wasn't a massive empire, but it was enough for us to live comfortably. My mom, Catherine, was everything to me. She was kind, caring, and always made our house feel warm and safe. And then there was Uncle William, my mom's uncle. He was a real estate developer with an estate so large, I couldn't even begin to count the rooms. He was always spoiling me with lavish gifts, from extravagant birthday presents to surprise trips. My dad would laugh it off, telling me that Uncle William was turning me into a brat, but he always said it with a smile. But that perfect life fell apart when I was 12. It started slowly at first. Just my mom complaining about headaches and migraines. She brushed them off, said it was stress or something minor. But as the days passed, the pain only worsened. One morning, she collapsed while making pancakes. The ambulance came, and I was left standing there, my heart pounding as the doctors tried to stabilize her. When we found out she had a brain tumor and it was inoperable, everything changed. The doctor was blunt with us. 6 months, maybe 10 if we're lucky. I can still hear my dad's voice shaking with fear. How long? He asked. I was sitting in that cold hospital room, but no one seemed to acknowledge me. I felt so small, so invisible, but everyone else was too consumed with their grief to notice. The next few months were a blur. Dad flew us all over the country, seeking specialists who promised they could help, but nothing worked. Mom grew weaker. She started losing her hair from the chemo, and it seemed like every time I looked at her, she was fading away. Her last words to me were, "Take care of your father, sweetheart." After that, she was gone. The funeral was a haze of faces and meaningless condolences. But it wasn't just Mom I lost that day. I lost my father too. His grief turned into something darker. Uncle William tried to step in, but my father refused his help. They had a terrible argument, and I'll never forget how my father screamed, "You didn't do enough!" His voice echoed in the house, sharp and angry. That was the last time I saw Uncle William for years. And my dad? He became a shadow of the man I once knew. For the next few years, it was just my dad and me. He tried his best to fill the gap left by Mom. He learned how to braid my hair by watching YouTube videos, and he showed up at every parent-teacher conference, always with a smile. But despite his efforts, it was never quite the same. I could tell that he was struggling, and so was I. We tried to keep things normal, like our Friday taco nights, but the house was quieter now, and no matter how much I tried to ignore it, there was a deep emptiness. Then came Ashley. She was the waitress at the diner where my dad had lunch during the week. A pretty redhead with a bubbly smile, she seemed nice at first, but I could tell something was off the moment she started hanging around. Dad came home later and later, always with this dopey grin on his face, and before I knew it, they were married. They had a small ceremony at City Hall, and I was there, standing as the ring bearer, trying to fake a smile. Ashley was already starting to play the role of the perfect stepmother. She always called me sweetie or honey, and tried to include me in everything, but something about it didn't feel right. It wasn't long before she and her 2 kids, Caleb and Sophia, moved in. That's when the chaos began. Caleb, who was 18, took over the den with his gaming setup, leaving no space for me. Sophia, 16, spread her clothes and makeup all over the house, and Ashley started redecorating the living room without even asking Dad. Everything started to feel like it belonged to them, not to me. But when Dad was around, Ashley kept up the nice act. She'd always pretend everything was perfect, calling me her daughter, making a show of trying to get along with me. But when he wasn't home, everything changed. "Felicia, why can't you be more helpful like Sophia?" she would ask, even when I was doing the dishes. "Sophia got straight A's this semester. What about you?" I would tell her, "I got 4 A's and 1 B, and she'd just brush it off. A B? Well, I guess not everyone can be as smart as Sophia." One day I came home from school and stopped dead in the hallway. All of Mom's pictures were gone. The wedding photo that had always been on the mantel, the family portraits in the hallway, even the small photo of Mom-Dad kept on the side table, all gone. In their place were pictures of Ashley's family. Some had Dad in them, some had me shoved into the corner, but Mom had been erased. I asked Ashley, "Where are Mom's pictures?" She just waved me off. "Oh, those old things? I packed them away. We need to move forward as a family, not live in the past." I ran to Dad's home office that night crying. She took down all of Mom's pictures, I said. Dad sighed. Ashley thinks it's healthier for all of us to focus on our new family. The pictures are safe in the attic, but Mom, Felicia, enough. Your mother is gone. Ashley is here now, trying to be a mother to you, and you keep fighting her. That hurt more than anything Ashley ever said. Dad's voice was cold, disappointed. And that was just the beginning. They started clearing out my room. I came home one day to find half my things packed in boxes and Sophia's stuff filling the space. My bookshelf was now home to her trophies. My desk had her laptop. My closet was full of her clothes. We're sharing now, Sophia announced with a smug grin. Mom says sisters share. I felt the walls close in around me. We are not sisters, I snapped. Tell that to your dad. Oh, wait, you can't. He's at work again. Dad's hours kept increasing. Ashley kept pushing him to work more, to save for their future, for the kids' college funds, and for a bigger house. But with all this saving, he wasn't home anymore. He missed my school play, where I had the lead role. He didn't help me with homework anymore. We stopped having our Friday taco nights. He was too tired. Dad had chosen them. He had chosen her. When I turned 18, everything fell apart. Dad was still working around the clock, always promising to spend more time with me, but it never happened. I knew things were bad when I came home one night and found Ashley standing at the kitchen counter, a stack of papers in front of her. You need to come with me, Felicia. We need to talk, she said in that cold, sharp tone she always used when she had something to say. I followed her, confused and exhausted from my day, but what she told me shook me to my core. My father had died. A drunk driver had run a red light and crashed head-on into his car. I was in shock, not knowing how to process it. The police had come to the door at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday. When Ashley answered, I heard her gasp. The sound of her crying felt rehearsed, like a performance. But for a brief moment, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, she cared. But then came the funeral. Ashley took control of everything. The flowers, the funeral home, the guest list. She didn't ask me about the music, the readings, or even if I wanted anything. She picked everything without so much as consulting me. The funeral was extravagant, far too expensive, and seemed to focus more on Ashley than on my dad. I thought I would find some comfort in the service, but it was the opposite. Ashley sobbed loudly, acting like she was the one who had lost the love of her life. Meanwhile, I sat there, numb, trying to make sense of everything that had happened in the last few years. My world had been turned upside down, and now my dad was gone. It wasn't until the reading of the will that I learned the full extent of the betrayal. Ashley had been named the trustee of my educational trust fund, and she was in control of everything: the family business, the house, even my father's legacy. The inheritance that was supposed to secure my future was now in her hands. At that moment, I understood. Ashley had manipulated everything from the start, and I had been too blind to see it. The following weeks were a blur. Ashley rearranged my room. No, our room, she corrected me, moving everything of mine into the attic while Caleb took over the space. And the worst part? They didn't even bother to ask. It was like my entire life, everything I had known, was being erased. My father's things were sold off in a garage sale. His fishing gear, his tools, even his watch collection. Gone, sold for a fraction of their value. But the most painful part of all came when Ashley called me into the living room one afternoon. We're converting the attic for Caleb, she said with a smile, as though she had any right to decide what happened in our house. That's my room, I protested. Well, it was your room. Now it's Caleb's. You'll be fine upstairs. I couldn't believe it. The home I had grown up in, the only place that ever felt like it belonged to me, was no longer mine. Then came the final betrayal. It was a Friday night when Ashley threw me out of the house. I'm sorry, Felicia, she said, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. But you need to leave. This is my house now. I couldn't even comprehend what was happening as she opened the front door and shoved my belongings onto the lawn. I stood there in shock, holding 4 cardboard boxes with everything I owned, realizing that the life I had known was gone, and I was utterly alone. The next few days were a blur of confusion and pain. I couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that my father was gone, and now Ashley had taken everything from me. It was the dead of winter when I left the house for the last time, standing in front of a place that was supposed to be my home. My Honda Civic became my shelter, my only refuge. I wasn't sure where to go or what to do. The world felt like it was closing in around me. I spent the first night in a Target parking lot. It felt like the safest place I could find, but around 2 a.m., a security guard knocked on my window, asking me to leave. I had no choice but to drive around, not knowing where to go, my heart pounding every time I heard a siren or saw headlights in my rearview mirror. I couldn't risk being caught. I found a residential street to park on, but sleep was impossible. Every noise, every shadow made me jump, wondering if someone was going to call the cops, or worse, break in. I was exhausted, physically and emotionally. My body ached from sleeping in the cramped driver's seat, and I couldn't shake the cold from my bones. But I knew I couldn't let myself break. I had to survive. I got into a routine pretty quickly. I parked in different spots every night. A grocery store lot here, a quiet street there. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep me out of sight. I didn't want to draw attention to myself. I even got a gym membership, just for the showers and bathroom, and it became the best $50 I spent every month. The coffee shop job was the only thing I had to keep me going. I worked from 6 a.m. to noon, then rushed to my second job at the bookstore from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. It was 75 hours a week between the two jobs, on top of full-time classes at the University of Washington. There was no room for rest, no room for anything but survival. And yet somehow I kept pushing. I worked through the exhaustion, through the hunger. I ate one meal a day, usually whatever the coffee shop was throwing out at the end of the day. I was losing weight, and my clothes hung off me, but I couldn't afford new ones. Every penny I made went to tuition and necessities. The loneliness was almost unbearable. I would cry myself to sleep, not because I missed Ashley or Caleb or Sophia, but because I missed them. My mom, my dad, the family I once had, the family I had lost. Then one day I ran into Uncle William. I was working the register at the coffee shop when I saw him walk in. He was older now, grayer, but there was no mistaking him. Uncle William. My heart stopped for a moment. Was I dreaming? "Felicia?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "My God, is that you?" I froze. I couldn't find the words. I felt too broken, too exposed. I had never expected to see him again. His eyes scanned me, my frailty, my exhaustion, and I could see the recognition in his face. He knew I wasn't the same girl he had last seen years ago. We spoke for a while, and I told him everything. The betrayal, the way Ashley had taken everything, my dad's death, how I had been living in my car for months. Uncle William was furious. His face turned red, and he slammed his hand down on the table. "You've been sleeping in your car?" he demanded. "Why didn't you call me after your dad died?" "I didn't have your number," I admitted. "I didn't know how to find you." "You could have figured it out," he said sharply. "You're too proud, just like your father." Maybe he was right. Maybe I was too proud, too afraid to ask for help. But what was I supposed to do? I was alone. I had to make it on my own. But Uncle William wouldn't hear it. He stood up abruptly. "Pack your things," he said. "You're coming with me. You should have called me the day Ashley threw you out. I'm not letting you stay in this mess anymore." I followed him to his estate in Bellevue, my old beat-up car barely able to keep up with his sleek Tesla. The mansion was even bigger than I remembered, and the sheer size of it made me feel small. But the feeling of safety I had long since forgotten began to return the moment I stepped inside. Uncle William led me to a guest suite that was bigger than any apartment I had ever seen. It had a real bed, clean sheets, and a private bathroom with a massive tub. "Now take your time," he told me. "Get cleaned up. Dinner is at 7 o'clock. I took the longest, hottest shower of my life, letting the warm water wash away months of fear and exhaustion. I put on clean clothes from a bag I had kept in my trunk, and, for the first time in what felt like forever, I slept in a real bed. I woke up 3 hours later, feeling like I had been in a dream. Dinner was simple, but it was the first time in months I felt like I could breathe. Uncle William didn't ask me about the details of my struggles right away. He didn't push me to talk. He just let me eat, let me feel human again. The next morning, he was already making plans. "We're going to see my lawyer," he said. "Ashley's theft is criminal, and we're going to fix this." I didn't know how it would all unfold, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Uncle William wasn't just offering me a roof over my head. He was offering me a chance to take back what was mine. We met with his lawyer, Mr. Crawford, in a sleek office that looked far too polished for someone like me. I felt out of place, but I quickly realized that this was exactly where I needed to be. William was focused, determined, and direct. He wasn't giving up on me. He was fighting for me, and he was going to make sure Ashley faced the consequences of everything she'd done. "Tell me everything," Mr. Crawford said, his serious eyes never leaving mine as I recounted everything that had happened, from the moment Ashley came into our lives to the time she threw me out of the house. The emotional toll, the theft, the way she had manipulated my father, and how she had taken control of everything, including the trust fund. I told him everything. It felt almost cathartic to get it out, like I was finally able to speak the truth after so many years of keeping it locked inside. Mr. Crawford nodded, taking notes. "The theft is criminal. We'll need to gather records and documentation, but we can nail her. It's going to take time, but we'll get her removed as trustee. You'll get what you deserve." The next few weeks were a blur of phone calls, meetings, and gathering evidence. I had to relive every painful detail, but with each meeting, I felt a little stronger, more confident. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was taking control of my life. I was fighting back. Then came the moment we had all been waiting for, the legal confrontation. Ashley walked into Mr. Crawford's conference room, looking as smug as ever, dressed in a designer suit that undoubtedly came from my stolen money. The moment she saw me sitting there, flanked by William and the lawyer, her face went pale, but she quickly masked it with a forced smile. "What is this?" she asked, trying to play it cool. Mr. Crawford laid out everything in front of her, the forensic accountant's findings, the proof of her theft, the criminal charges that could be filed against her. There was no way out for her. These were legitimate investments, like she tried to argue, but it was clear that no one was buying her excuses. "The family business. I've been supporting it." "Supporting it?" I spoke up for the first time, my voice steady and unwavering. "You've been stealing from me, from my trust fund. You've been taking money for years, and you've been using my father's death as an excuse to cover your greed." Ashley's face turned white as she realized she was cornered. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Mr. Crawford didn't miss a beat. "The facts are clear. You've been siphoning off small amounts of money for 4 years. It adds up to $97,000, and that's not including the excessive trustee fees you've been paying yourself, not to mention the personal expenses charged to the trust. This is theft, and you'll be held accountable." William leaned forward, his voice low and controlled. "You threw my niece out of the house. She's been living in her car for 6 months while you've been living in luxury. I think it's time we fix this." Ashley's composure finally cracked. Her face flushed with anger and panic. She tried to recover, but it was too late. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said, though it sounded like an empty apology. "She could have come back to the house any time. I didn't know what else to do." "That's enough," I interrupted, standing up from my seat. "Stop the lies. You stole from me. You ruined my life." Mr. Crawford slid a stack of papers across the table, placing them in front of her. "We have 2 options. You sign this settlement, agreeing to repay the stolen amount, plus interest. You'll be removed as trustee, and William will take over. Or we press criminal charges, and you'll face the consequences." Ashley's hand trembled as she reached for the papers. She glanced at the evidence, then back at me and William. There was no way out. Her pride wouldn't allow her to accept responsibility, but the evidence was overwhelming. Finally, she signed. The settlement was official, and just like that, my trust fund was restored. Not only that, but I now owned the family business that my dad had built. The house that had been sold off to satisfy Ashley's greed was returned to my name, and with it, a feeling of justice I had long thought was out of reach. William didn't just stop there. He immediately wrote a check for my tuition, telling me, "You quit those jobs tomorrow. Focus on school. That's your job now." For the first time in years, I could breathe again. The weight of my 2 jobs, the exhaustion, the constant fear, it all started to lift. I was going to graduate. I was going to finish school. The months that followed were a blur of change. With Uncle William's help, I graduated from the University of Washington with a degree in environmental design, something I had once thought impossible given everything that had happened. But I did it. And now the future stretched out before me, wide open. I started my own landscape design company. It was small at first, just me and 1 assistant, but I knew this was what I wanted to do. I focused on sustainable designs, native plants, and creating spaces that helped people feel peaceful. My company started to grow, and I felt a sense of pride I hadn't felt in years. William remained a constant presence in my life, offering advice and support when I needed it. He had helped me reclaim what was rightfully mine, But more than that, he had given me the courage to move forward, to build my life on my terms. The family business also flourished under professional management, and I kept it running, despite Patricia's suggestion that I sell it for a large sum. No, this was part of my heritage. It was something my dad had built, and I wasn't going to let it go, no matter how messy the end had been. I found a small studio apartment near campus, something I could finally call my own. The first night I slept there, it felt like a palace. It was everything I had worked for. A home that was truly mine, a place where I could heal and move forward. I continued to volunteer at the youth shelter, helping kids who had been kicked out by their families or had aged out of foster care. I understood what they were going through better than most. And as for Ashley, I didn't hate her anymore. Pity was all I felt. She had it all: my dad's love, the house, the business, and threw it all away for greed. Meanwhile, I lost everything and got it back, plus more. Now I run my own businesses, help kids get back on their feet, and have dinner with my Uncle William every Sunday. Life is good. Hard-earned, but good. And I'll never forget what it took to get here.